Above this noodle shop in New York's Chinatown, agents of the Chinese Communist government operated an overseas police station for years. There are more than 100 of them worldwide. They don't usually look like a police station. They may only be back rooms, but they're staffed by Chinese government officials. The police stations, along with so-called aid stations across the U.S., are used by the Chinese government to harass and threaten pro-democracy Chinese immigrants to stop speaking out against the regime and go back to China, even kidnapping them if necessary. One of their targets is Li Jianji, a pro-democracy activist who was tortured repeatedly in Chinese psychiatric hospitals before he was able to flee to the U.S., where the persecution has continued. Xi, who does not speak English, told us Chinese government hitmen in the Los Angeles area have tried to kill him 3 times, twice with a car and once by stabbing him in the neck, calling him a traitor as they fled the scene. Chinese government agents and supporters regularly film and disrupt pro-democracy demonstrations in American cities. They warn activists they're being reported to Beijing and that their family back home will be arrested. The world has known about these police stations for many months now. A key question for the U.S. government is why almost nothing has been done about it. A recent New York Times report made it look like the FBI is on the case, highlighting a raid on that Chinese police station in New York's Chinatown. But that raid happened last fall, and the FBI didn't shut it down, it only gathered evidence. When we asked the FBI if it's closed any of the Chinese police stations across the U.S. or brought charges against anyone, it declined comment, saying that FBI Director Christopher Wray's testimony to the Senate Homeland Security Committee last year would serve as the agency's statement on the matter.
We are aware of the existence of these stations. I had to be careful about discussing our specific investigative work, but suffice to say, I can tell you from an FBI Director perspective, I'm deeply concerned about this, and I'm not going to just let it lie.
Laura Harth, with the Spanish group that uncovered the extent of these overseas police stations, says it's been a struggle to get governments to do anything about it.
I don't think most of them knew about the police stations, obviously. That's clear from their response. Obviously, we had a response in the US, we had some response in Australia, some in Canada, where the Royal Canadian Mounted Police head came out saying, oh yes, we know that this is an issue, we will act on it. Yet nothing happened.
Chinese democracy activist Jingyu Wang is a U.S. resident now living under police protection in the Netherlands, where Chinese agents have repeatedly harassed and threatened him. He was in prison for 2 months in Dubai at the request of Chinese authorities and has had to fight off a knife attack in the Netherlands.
How can I help you? Why you call me?
This is a phone call he recorded from the Chinese embassy in Norway, saying he's been reported to police as having a bomb. The Chinese government has imprisoned his parents to force him to return to China.
They asked me go to Rotterdam, Chinese overseas police station for surrender, and they asked me go back to China. They asked me thinking about my parents from 2022 February to 2022, I think April. Almost every day they will make over 100 phone call to me. Every day, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., keep make phone call to me.
These overseas police stations are only one part of a massive campaign to control Chinese citizens living in other nations. The communist government has also used what it calls Operation Fox Hunt and Skynet to apprehend citizens abroad under the guise of stopping financial crimes.
So the police stations are really just the tip of the iceberg of what we're looking at when we talk about the transnational repression and policing campaigns coming from the Chinese Communist Party to return people to China at all costs, by all means.
Harth says the Chinese government has reportedly forced the return of an incredible 230,000 Chinese back to the mainland between 2021 and last year.
The CCP is attempting to impose its control in every country around the world.
China expert Bradley Thayer believes one reason for the lack of action by the Justice Department has been a failure by American leaders to face up to the China threat.
The lack of responsiveness regarding the China threat is something which has plagued us for decades. This lack of concern, which plagues the American elite, and that would be universities, media, so many of our political leaders, Wall Street, Silicon Valley.
The FBI recently asked the Chinese American community to report any harassment by Chinese government agents, which Thayer agreed was odd since the FBI, with its vast spying powers, probably knows who the agents are. Le Jianji wishes the FBI would do something. He told us he reported the attempts against his life to the FBI, but it never responded. Dale Hurd, CBN News.